Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. I'm sorry I didn't get an episode recorded last night. I actually couldn't speak. I caught some sort of mung that was going around. It's been going around my office. It doesn't appear to be COVID because I've had COVID twice before and it wasn't as bad as either of those issues. I had a fever this morning, so I didn't go to work today because, well, that's one thing I know. If you have a fever, you're still infected and you're still shedding that stuff. Not that I really care, but I'm trying not to get my entire office sick because it sucks when you're sick. On the heels of that, we've got a lot to report today, not just in the 2A world, but let's look at what's happening in our neighboring state of Colorado. They're taking Trump off the ballot. Now, at the same time that that's going on, there is, politics is downstream of culture. There's a movie that's rolling around talking about civil war. If there is one thing that would lead to a civil war, in my opinion, it would be being that the presidential candidate for a chosen group of people, 70 million people, was removed off the ballot unjustly. Now, again, I have my issues with Trump, the orange man. We wouldn't be fighting some of the battles we've been fighting in the 2A because of Trump, or if it weren't for Trump. I digress, though. I think he's one of the people that can possibly help the country. I say that because my own party, the Libertarian Party, they don't like themselves, and they're not putting up a candidate that is going or has a chance to win. We're not seeing that, and we need to have seen that already, because we're in that place. We're in that last year before the election actually happens. So that is a big deal. At the same time that comes out this weekend, there was a guy that was caught getting pegged on the Senate floor, on the Senate housing floor, or not housing floor, hearing floor. If you couldn't see that the country is going to hell in a handbasket, despite the wins we're winning in the 2A world, we're seeing degeneracy on a multiple level scale. We're seeing them erect statues of Baphomet. Again, I'm a Christian, so that's offensive. There's a lot of things that would offend a lot of sensibilities. I understand that we are a country of rules and laws, not so much faith. However, our country was founded on the Christian faith. Therefore, we should still have some allegiance to that. Now, what I really wanted to focus on, though, is the Safer States agenda. So this is something that the Biden administration has put out, and we need to be very careful if your state is anywhere close to blue, okay? And here's why. Now, a while back, I had celebrated that they made Kamala Harris the czar of gun violence, okay? So she was going to be heading this up. Well, she's got some more teeth in this than I was hoping to see. First off, what's supposed to happen is any state that signs on with the Biden agenda for civilian disarmament is going to get funds. And if you're a state like New Mexico that's always looking for money, and our governor's already shown her preference towards civilian disarmament, I could see her going down this path. So the first step in this is that the state in question has to have an office of gun violence. Now, from that office, they're going to be talking to, to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General is going to use that to go after people. The next thing that they're wanting to go after with this civilian disarmament scheme is that they're wanting to go after civilian licensing before you purchase firearms. Now, we've seen this in California, we've seen this in New York, we've seen this in Illinois, we've seen this in New York, and it's failed constitutional muster, but it's still a thing. They're going to keep trying this until we've won in court, and the wheels of justice move slowly, so therefore they're going to keep trying this because they see it as a way to disarm you. Now, why is this nefarious? Because they're doing a background check before they do a background check. They're going to use this on a case-by-case basis, not on just the merit of you purchasing a firearm, like a normal background check would be. That means that they're going to try to disarm certain groups. If you start to purchase more than one firearm, or you're in that sphere where you're a collector and you're buying more just because you're a collector, you're going to pop on this and they're going to want to do more scrutinization, which leads to the conclusion that they're probably going to disallow it. Now, what that does, though, these steps, once they put them in place, and the court cases that they raise from having the Office of Gun Violence are going to be backed by people with deeper pockets than anyone who would raise a stink about it. That means if I came up and said, hey, I got a problem with this, they're going to have every town and all the budget from the federal government to back them in their court case, where I don't. This puts us behind the eight ball in a way that we can't possibly win other than fight it. Now, what I mean by fight it is we have to fight the very inception of this. I see the roundhouse session starting in January 2nd being the kickoff of what our governor is going to try to do with the safer state policy agenda. The reason why I say that is because Martin Heinrich, our federal senator, has already voiced his support for this type of action at the federal level. Our governor has been very anti-2A in the fact that she nullified the 2A until the court stepped in and said she could only do it in public spaces. This is coming down the pipe. We're going to have to be very organized. We're going to have to be very vocal. And we're going to have to speak out against this, because this is something that is going to come down the pipe. I guarantee you it. Just because there's more funding thrown towards these new offices and thrown towards the state that goes ahead with this agenda. And if you know anything about New Mexico politics, and you know anything about how the monetary system works in New Mexico for government policy and for their programs, you know that they're going to go after this because they're going to see it as free money and dollar signs. Will this affect us? Will it have any effect on crime? That's what we should be asking, right? It won't. One of the things that the safer agenda, the safe state policy agenda has, that's a big mouthful, so if I fumble that, I'm still kind of recovering, is that they're trying to get more stringent background checks. What they don't understand is that you can't do that with the system in place. They're going to put an unneeded burden on the average person who's just trying to exercise their rights. This is something that you could see coming. And there was a point in time I would have been okay with more background checks if it would have stopped crime, but it hasn't. They've changed the NICS system multiple times, and none of those times have they ever deterred criminals from getting firearms, nor have they done anything to help the American citizen, let alone New Mexicans. On another front, I mentioned Shane Ferrari on Monday, that he was making the rounds for taking to task the people doing gun buybacks. And he's making national headlines now. He is actually on X, or the article is, where these people are complaining about the fact that Shane has raised some very pointed questions that mean that these people aren't following the law and that they need to follow the law. The law isn't just for us, it's for everyone. And if they're going to make us face this law, this unjust law anyway, they need to follow it too. And we raised such an alarm that FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, reposted the tweet from the article. Now, I know a lot of you guys don't get into Twitter because, well, that's why you have me, is that I get into Twitter and I get into those spaces and I do the research to figure out what's going on. But this has gotten around multiple times in multiple places, and it's raising a stink enough to where those companies, those places that are actually for us, like Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America, it's raising up on their flag. And they're going to use that same type of fight in those other cities where they're trying to do these unjust gun buybacks by making them stick to the law that's on the books in the state that they're doing it. This could cost them millions in the process of doing this, plus slow it down. This is a win for the 2A. And it came from our sheriff. If there's nothing that you learn from New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union, is it's going to take people at the grassroots level, at the local level, that is going to stand up and say, enough's enough. My constituents, my people, my representative group does not like this and does not want this, nor do they need it. Because without that, we're not going to get anywhere. There are super PACs involved that have way more money than we do, and the only way we win is at the grassroots level. That goes with Trump. You're pissed off that Trump isn't going to be on the ballot in Colorado? You need to speak up. There's a stay on that order right now. We're seeing this degeneracy at every level of the federal government. And a lot of people will take the nihilistic approach and say that we've lost. We haven't. They wouldn't have to resort to these extreme examples if we were losing. The fact is, they're having to, and they're showing their hand. Now, what do? Be active. Let's share this. Share this podcast, because I talk about this stuff often, about what you need to be in the know about New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. As a black rifle operator, as someone who owns a black rifle, you need to be aware of what's happening in the world right now and where they're coming after you and what you're going to do. I try to keep you abreast of the situation with, ammunition. Ammunition prices are going to spike because there's 2 wars on, and demand for ammunition components has spiked. So we're going to see that. The same thing can be said about anything else. When you look at what's happening in our world, where we're winning, we're winning in a lot of ways, but it takes a long time to do it. The best way to prevent that from ever happening is to get in on the grassroots level and stop it before it gets there. That's all I have for you tonight. Hopefully I'll have a better one and a longer one tomorrow. Share, subscribe, and most importantly, be great.